Chavre, how are you? I hope everyone is gesund, stark, und freilich, begashmis und beruchnis. Today we'll start as usual with tzedakah. Since the war started, we're adding tzedakah. G'day tzedakah shemacharev sagula. The war should end now, and Mashiach should come. We will start as usual, besides for the tzedakah, with the posik, a prayer. Nafshi b'seich levoyim eshkavo le'etim b'nei odom shineim chanis v'chitzim oloshoinom cherev chado. We're speaking over here about how David HaMelech is amongst his enemies, and there's many kapitles talking about how Hashem saves him from his enemies, from David HaMelech. And over here he says, my soul is in the midst of lions, I lie among fiery men. Their teeth are spears and arrows, their tongue a sharp word. This pasuk is brought down in the Kli Yakar this week, connecting to Korach. There's a very interesting Kli Yakar, and he says that Korach Rosh Tevis Keshes Reimach Cherev, which is an arrow, a spear, and a sword. Similar to what it says over here, Shineim Chanes V'chitzim Uloshoinam Cherev Chada. One of the lessons we learned from Korach in this week's Parsha is about how careful we have to be in speech, as we'll soon see. So this week's Parsha is Parshas Korach, and in Mitzvah Hashem, Tuesday is going to be Gimmel Tammuz. By the way, it's Shabbos, so Chodesh Tammuz, and Monday night is going to be Gimmel Tammuz, a very important day for Klal Yisrael, the 30th year from the Ilula of the Rebbe. And obviously we have to speak today and learn the relevance of Parshas Korach to the inyan of the Yom Ilula of the Rebbe on Gimmel Tammuz, and what lessons should we take about it. So, in Kapitel Yud Zayin, Posuk Hey of this week's Parsha, Parshas Korach, the Posuk says something which is very, very unusual, in my humble opinion, and if you think otherwise, let me know. The Posuk says in Posuk Hey, after it says the story of Korach, and how Korach gets punished because of his rebellion against Moshe Rabbeinu. This week's Parsha speaks about the rebellion, the revolt, the mutiny against Moshe's authority, and what the machlokes was, the revolt. There's many different layers. I'm speaking to people that I assume know about the story in general. And as usual, in every story in Torah, there's many commentators. So our job is just to focus on one idea, and especially to show in the light of Chassidus. So this week's Parsha, like we said, in Kapitel Yud Zayin Posuk Hey, he says, Zikaron Livnei Yisrael, this whole story should be as a reminder of the children of Israel, Lamana Shalo Yikrav, Ish Zora Shalo Mizera Arenhu, Lahakti Ktoiris Livnei Hashem, V'layich Korach V'chadosoi, Kashadibur Hashem B'yad Moshe Loi. So it should be a reminder to the children of Israel. The Pashto Pshat, the reminder means what it says before, right preceding this. Vayikach Elazar HaKohen es machtis hanachoshes asher krivu asrufim vayirakum tzipui lamizbech. He took the copper fire pans that the burned ones had offered and thinned them out as a coating for the altar. And this coating would serve as a reminder that only Kohanim could do this service. But in general, the whole episode, the whole story of Korach V'Adosoi, Korach and his band of cronies, the ones who went against Moshe Rabbeinu. So we should remember that first of all, only Kohanim are allowed to do the avodah of Kohanim, not Leviim. And then the pasuk says, "V'layik Korach v'chadosoi, kashedibur Hashem b'yad Moshe Loi." Don't be like Korach, as the Eibishter spoke to Moshe. So, the simple pshat, as Rashi learns over here, where it says, don't be like Korach, it means don't turn out to be like Korach if you're going to go against. And what will happen to you will be like the punishment, so it's a warning. Just like what happened in the story of Korach. But there's a famous Gemara in Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Yud Amud Aleph, where it says, that whoever is by Yokom, I lost a piece of paper. The Gemara says that whoever is machzik b'machloikis, it says Vayokom Moshe. The Gemara says like this. Previously, it said a pasuk Vayokom Moshe v'yelech al dosam v'aviram Omer Shlaka said Mikan she'ein machzikim b'machloikis. From here, we see that we should never continue with an argument, perpetuate an argument, foster an argument, keep it going. Omerav kol ha-machzik b'machloikis over belav. Whoever continues and remains stubborn about an argument transgresses a lav. Shenema v'liyeh kekorach v'chadosai. As the pasuk says, don't be like Korach and his congregation. So there's two things over here that are unusual. One not so unusual, but one very unusual. The first thing is l'zikaron. Remember. Not every time does the Torah tell us something and underline it, like with the red marker. Pay attention. Remember. But there's Sheish Chiris, there's other places in the Torah where it mentions that. But I'm still pointing out that when it says such a thing, that means it's very important. Engrave it into your heart. Take it personal. Very personal. So over here, when the Torah says, remember, it's similar to in the Alter Rebbe in chapter 29 of the Tanya. Very unusual, even though the whole Tanya is mamish, the greatest ultimate guide for life and answers, as he writes himself in the Hakdom Samalaket, in the preface to the whole Sefer, in the introduction. But nevertheless, as far as I can recall, in the entire 53 chapters of Tanya, in the Likutei Amorim, Gan Prokim, there's only one place where he says, and from here we take a lesson. That's at the end of chapter 29. See there. And it's a very important lesson about any person that will ever have any doubts. In general, you should know where those doubts come from. So to over here, in general, I'm saying, wherever the Torah says, remember, that means, of course, you're supposed to pay attention to every single word in Torah, every single letter in Torah, etc., etc. But where the Torah itself says, remember, so then we surely have to pay extra attention. So therefore, Zikaron Livnei Yisrael. We're talking about this whole story of it, besides for the Pashtum Pshat. But we're talking about the whole episode of it, the whole story. Zikaron Livnei Yisrael. You should always remember. And then, according to this Gemara in Sanhedrin, not the Pshat according to Rashi, but according to the Gemara in Sanhedrin, when the pasuk says, "V'lo yeh kekorach v'chadosai," it means, don't be like Korach and his congregation. And it's a lav. Some Rishonim learned that this is one of the Shasam mitzvahs loisasei. Not according to the Rambam, not according to Rashi, but some people learn, based on this Gemara, that it's one of the Shasam mitzvahs loisasei. Don't be like Korach. So that's also something which is very striking. We don't have a verse that says, don't be like Parai. Don't be like Lot. Don't be like Balak. Don't be like Zimri. Don't be like Korach. So that especially is a tremendous, relevant message and lesson for a Yid. Of all the people, of all the characters, in the entire Chamisha Chum Shetela, in Teil Shavasav, I'm sorry, Chamisha Chum Shetela, I don't know about the rest of Tanakh. We have a verse which, according to some Rishonim, is a lav from the Shasam Mitzvahs Leisasei. It says, "V'lo yeh kekorach." Remember, don't be like Korach. So, what's the lesson in this? And obviously, the lesson is that the point of "V'lo yeh kekorach b'chadosai" means that don't be machzik machloikis, which means we take it out of the particular argument. What was the argument about? The argument was about who was going to be the leader. Korach wanted to be Kohen Gadol, or he wanted to be the head of Shevet Levi, and there were some other issues. No, we're not taking the lesson over here what the argument was about. We're taking the lesson over here that machloikis is something which has to be negated totally. And that's the chiddush over here. And we learn from this, don't be like Korach, don't be involved in any disputes. And that's the word. Don't be machzik b'machlekes. So this is, alas, I believe in 2024, Tafshin Pei Daled, I think more relevant than ever before. I don't want to elaborate on the negative. We all saw what happened in Eretz Yisrael before October 7th. People were actually scared. And we're not giving anybody any justifications for anything. But it was frightening. The Pirat al-Vavas. If we know there's a story in the Gemara with Bar Kamsa and Bar Kamsa, which is dealing with one person, what about what was going on before with Yom Kippur and the whole summer, etc., etc.? Hashem Yirachem. So therefore, today, now, more than ever before, this message that we have to have about not being machzikim and machlekes is more negated than ever before. And especially that right now at present, and I think we mentioned it before, this whole idea of polarization was never as bad as it is today. In every single country, whether it's France, whether it's England, I'm saying by Goyim also, whether it's the United States, this concept of if you disagree, then you're evil, you're terrible, you're a monster, you're a savage, etc. And now, the main point is, L'gabe b'nei Yisrael, we have to realize that the most important thing is the Achdus. So let's now talk about two lessons, and especially if we want to talk about it in connection to Gimmel Tammuz. So let's first talk about the positive shortly, and then we'll get to the idea of the machlekes. The same Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Yud over there says, "Vayokom Moshe vayelech al Dosam va'aviran Omer Shlokish Mikan Shein Machzikim b'Machlekes." So we see Benegay to Moshe Rabbeinu, and that's the idea of a Rebbe. And we see many stories of the Rebbe that when there were people that disagreed with him, he always did not exclude that person or chas v'sholom take it as a personal affront. Oh, you don't like me. You're not my friend. There's stories after stories. I don't want to elaborate now because we spoke about these stories before. One story is with Rabbi Shmuel Lu, another story is with Rabbi Weiss from Miami. And each one was dealing with another gadol of Yisrael or rabbis that had influence, non-Lubavitchers, and these rabbis had gone against the Rebbe. Now, and one of them had gone against the Rebbe in a very painful way, like with a major campaign against. Rabbi Weiss wanted to make a mikveh, it was a mikveh, Dafka Lubavitcher way, and this rabbi went against him. And then later, Rabbi Weiss wanted to make kashrus, and the Rebbe was telling him, get that rabbi and he should join your kashrus organization. And he was shocked. How could the Rebbe consider this? The story is beautiful, but we're not getting into the details now. My point is that the Rebbe was in the contrary, always to be inclusive and embrace the opposition, and then ultimately win them over. Like it says, when you get to Pod b'Shalom Nafshi, ki berab moyimodi, anshe Avshalom ispalu b'Shleim Mishal David. When you have the opposition that sings your praises, that's the accomplishment. And that's the way of Moshe Rabbeinu. Without elaborating over here, if you know the Pshat, when it says, Vayishma Moshe, Vayipal al Panov, the Gemara says that one of the Pshatim is, Vayishma Moshe, they accused him of Eishes Ish. This is Moshe Rabbeinu, the most ruchnistic person, the one who stood in the mountain 3 times for 40 days without food and water. And Moshe, Teira Tzivulanum Moshe, Meirosha Kilas Yankiv, Teira Tzivulanum Moshe, Teira Begamatria Tafei Shir Aleph. He gave them the whole Teira. And here they're suspecting him of Eishes Ish, and with everybody. Vayishma Moshe, Vayipal Ponov, he collapsed. I can't talk to you. There's nothing what to speak about. Moshe Rabbeinu is the most spiritual person, the holiest tzaddik. And the Eibishter decided to give the Torah through Moshe Rabbeinu, and here they're accusing of Eishes Ish. So why am I mentioning this? So you should just have an idea of what's going on over here. A normal person, when he's confronted in such a way with a major rebellion, And don't forget, Korach was Spitz Chabad, so to speak. He was a relative. And he was the biggest billionaire, trillionaire. So in that way, he was a shtickle powerful. And according to some commentators, the level of the sin is connected to that. He thought that with his billions and with his 250 men, he's going to blow Moshe away. Moshe is an old man with a stick. And imagine the humiliation. Imagine the humiliation. I mean, I can't say exactly how Moshe Rabbeinu felt, because I'm picturing it in human terms. Imagine there's a leader. He's absolute selflessness. Miut chelbi v'dami. He's constantly dealing with total concern, compassion, and care and kindness, like the loyal shepherd. And here all of a sudden there's a rebellion. Not only they're not showing gratitude, they're accusing him of the worst sins, of the lowest sort. Coarse. Rachmana litzlan. So that's what we're dealing with over here, that situation. And nevertheless, he still went to them, tried to appease them. We don't have to do this. Let's find peace. Let's find the common language. V'chulu v'chulu. That's number one. So we see from the Rebbe, the lesson we have to always take. Always take the high road. I'm talking language to me and you, to myself. It's difficult, but this is what we have to do. That's number one. And now let's talk about Kol HaMazal Machlekes Eiver Balav. So again, the Torah comes along and says, V'lo yeh kekorach. Why? Because, you know how to say the word cancer? We say Yena Machla. But you know, like these days, everyone's talking about what Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs said, that anti-Semitism mutates. Same thing is over here with Sinas Chinam. Machlekes. There's always a reason to find machlekes. There's always a reason to say why you don't like him. There's no sinas chinam. There's no baseless hatred. There's a reason for it. And there's no end to grievances. And there's no end to jealousy. You're jealous because he has more money. You're jealous because he's funnier. You're jealous because he has no money so the people have mercy on him. Whatever it is, you're always finding different reasons that's getting you upset. And this is what it means that the pasuk over here says, number one, remember, because somehow there's a dimension, there's an aspect, there's an element, there's a tendency, especially by Jews. What can I tell you? Maybe because each one of us is B'nai Yechidah Shel Malach Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's a certain aspect that you're always going to see how someone else is not good enough, or you have a complaint against another person. First of all, we know the famous joke about the guy who was lost on an island, and while he was there for 10, 20 years, he built a gym, he built a home, he built a theater, he built a library, and he built a shul. Anyways, one day, after he'd been removed for 20 years, there was a ship that's coming along, and he waved to them, and they came along, and he tells them, you know what? I want to show you a tour of what I accomplished in the last 20 years. He takes them around the island. This is my shul, this is my shul, this is my house, this is my house, this is my theater, this is my library, this is my gym, whatever it is. And this is my shul. One of the people there from the boat that came off the boat to see the tour of this island saw that right opposite the shul, where he says, this is my shul, there was another building that looked very identical. So one of the people asked the person, what's that? The building which looked exactly like a duplicate of the shul. And he says, that's the shul I don't go to. So in other words, his identity is defined by a shul that he goes to, but he also has to have a shul that he doesn't go to. It's a joke, but there's truth to it. And the same thing, there's another famous anecdote on how it goes exactly. One of the presidents of the United States came to visit America, and the president tells the prime minister, I don't know if it was Golda Meir or somebody else, he says, you know me, I'm a president of a country of 300 million people, and you're just a president or a prime minister of a country of 3 million people at that time, maybe. So the prime minister of Israel said, no, you're making a big mistake. You're a president of a country with 300 million people or 200 million people. I'm a prime minister of a country with 3 million prime ministers. Das ist der Weisse. So therefore, this is the word, Zikaron, Yidalach, Yidalach, remember Leilam Voed. Because there's going to be that tendency. Loma Tesnasu, who are you, Bechlal? Am B'noi Yechidi Shel Melech Malchei Amloch HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's one pshat, see in Likutei Sichos Chili Beis, where Korach says, Madua Tesnasu. Why do I have to become better? That's the pshat Madua Tesnasu. Not that he's looking at Moshe says, why are you the leader? Why don't you elevate yourself? Why don't I have to elevate myself? I'm good enough. I'm a neshama. I'm a chelik elikam imal mamish. You can't get better than that. So why are you demanding of us to rise, to elevate, to strive for higher? So this is what's going on in every single yid. And this is why we have to remember forever. This is a disease. Machlokes. And remember whatever. That you're over a lav, according to some Rishonim, it's a lav. You should not be like Korach Vadosei, who's going to find 15 reasons why he's right. Don't get involved in machlokes. And it's not about what the machlokes, the content of the machlokes. It's about the etzem zach from a machlokes. And this is also another pshat that I heard, and connecting it more with Chassidus. I heard once a word, V'lo yeh Korach. Don't be like Korach. Be like yourself. What does it mean, don't be like Korach, but be like yourself? That was Korach's problem. He wasn't happy with what his shlichus was meant to be. As everyone knows the story, the word about Rabbi Zusha Anapoli, when I come Lamaila, they're not going to ask me, why wasn't I like Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yankov, or Moshe? They're going to ask me, why weren't you like Rabbi Zusha? The profundity of the word is not that he's coming along to make it easier, to tell you, you don't have to be like Avraham, Yitzchak, Yankov, or like Moshe. All you have to be is yourself. No, there's something much more profound. You have to be you because no one else could take place, could switch what you have to accomplish. What you have to accomplish, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Moshe cannot accomplish. It's something that you have to accomplish, and only you, and that's your mission. You have a standing order, which is guard this post, do not desert post. You're a soldier, and this is your position. And no one else is meant to take that position except for you. And that's if you believe in Hashgacha Pratis. And Chassidus emphasized this point in many, many different concepts and sugyas. Bir Tzutzes, Hasagas Gvul. It's all about your journey and your mission. It's a soul thing. The mission of your neshama in this world is to fulfill your mission. And that's what it means. Don't be like Korach, who didn't realize that for him to fulfill his mission, he has to be Korach and not gun chase after Aaron's role. By the way, I just want to continue. We spoke once, just as a side point, we spoke once how the Rebbe explains in many sichos how the positive lesson from Korach is that he wanted to always go higher. I wanted to mention it before as part of the Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader, and how to a lesson practically about machlokes is that Moshe tells Korach, and Rashi brings it down, Afani lo yitzibakach. Moshe even told the Korach in the group, I also wanted to be Kohen Gadol. So that's also another lesson. I should have mentioned it before, that if you want to be able to bring peace, you have to identify with the person. You have to acknowledge his grievance and say, I understand you. And like, let's call it humanize. In other words, sometimes you're having a machlokes with another person, you don't go into that person's mindset. That's the problem. Understand where he's coming from. That's the lesson we have to learn from Moshe over here. Similar to what it says, that Mikan Shein Machzikim Machlokes, one of the ways, practically, Shein Machzikim Machlokes, is by understanding, like Moshe says, Afani lo yitzibakach. Understand that person where he's coming from. Let's go back to the idea of fulfill your mission. So just as an example, I think Tanya, chapter 27, is a very, very powerful response to this whole idea. It's very late, so I'm not going to elaborate. But the Beinoni, the Alter Rebbe addresses from chapter 26, 27, 28, and 29, and 30, different grievances, different issues that the Beinoni could be struggling with, and how he could be joyous regardless. So one of the things is, what happens when a Beinoni has a very, very vile thought, a very coarse thought, machshava zora mamish, let's say. And in chapter 27, it's talking about you're going in the street, you're in business, and you have a very bad machshava zora, and you're feeling very bad about it, depressed. So the Alter Rebbe tells the person, number one, you should know that since you pushed it away, you should be happy, you're able to fulfill a commandment. But then he goes, and whoever doesn't commit a sin is as if he committed a mitzvah. And then he tells him, and if you feel depressed, that's only because of your ego. But that's not the main point the Alter Rebbe says. The main point the Alter Rebbe says is that kadis kafir sitarachere stali kikara de kutshe berichu v'chul almen ubechol d'chir d'chir and v'ule lekach nivelis muchamazu kol yomov. Meaning to say, imagine you walked into the king, and the king tells you, Uncle Sam wants you, I need you to be there. And you are as important to the overall mission and success of the entire country by dafka standing there and doing your job. Not by being a general, not by being a one-star general, not by being a five-star general, not by being a colonel, lieutenant, major, by being a private Beryl Schmerl. And standing right there, I have the greatest nachas in the world. So don't think about your personal advancement. Understand that your personal advancement is when you reach your potential and you realize that your accomplishment is such an accomplishment, be Reb Zusha, that Avram Yitzchak Yankov can't accomplish. And according to all the commentators in Tanya over here, if you understand each of these words, Kadiskafi Sitarachah, when we suppress the Sitarachah, is Stalik, which means we're drawing down a greater divine revelation than regular revelations. Yikara also goes on Bli Gvul, the infinite light. Istaliki goes on Bli Gvul, Istaliki goes on Bli Gvul, Yikara goes on Bli Gvul, glory. The Kutshe Berichu also goes on Bli Gvul. The Chul Almen, as the Maimon Vasiligani brings out, Bishava. So in other words, the greatest glory, the greatest divine revelation comes when the small person in his small world does the right thing. He pushes out that bad thought. He just changed the entire cosmic worlds upon worlds. I mentioned this already a couple of times. I heard from Reb Melech that he was once by a Fabring, and the Rebbe spoke about this Kadis Kafi Sitracher, Istalik Yikor du Kutshe B'Richul Almen, that the Rebbe said, As mit eines Kafi kehrt man über ganz Seder Shtalshelis. And the Rebbe picked his hand from under the table, even though usually the Rebbe doesn't pick his hand over the table by Fabrengens. So to demonstrate what kind of revolution and transformation we make, Kadis Kafi Sitracher, with one suppression of something negative, we caused a cosmic, monumental change throughout the entire galaxy and cosmic order of all the revelations of celestial levels, beyond anything you can imagine. And this is the answer to Korach. That he thought he's going to reach his shleimus, his ultimate realizing who he is, by being Aaron. No. You have to be who you are and fulfill your mission. And by fulfilling your particular mission, that's how you reach your greatest greatness. That's the point. So it's before Gimmel Tammuz, and the Rebbe by the Fabringen of Yud Shvat, Tovshin Yud Aleph, the first Fabringen which he took on the Nesias, he said, "Die alle was of Mashayches zum Rebbe sollen stehen beachtos." All those that have a connection to the Rebbe should be standing in unity. And this is the point, my friends. There's nothing I guarantee it to you, nothing more important than Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael. There's a famous Tanchuma that says, Omer Rebbe Loz said, God Lashalom, peace is great, Shafilu Yisrael, Atzmon Oisen Avodah Zarah. Even if the Jewish nation would commit idolatry. But V'oisen Chabura Achas, Ein Midas Hadin Negaz Behen. But if the Yidden would be united, but Achdus one with the other, good relations, brotherhood, fraternity, Avas Reim, so then Ein Midas Hadin Negaz Behen. There would be no punishment. So this is what we have to remember again and again and again and again. For some people this comes easier, for some people it comes harder. That the all those that have a connection to the Rebbe should be in a state of unity, and this goes in the Gans Klal Yisrael, the entire Jewish nation. We have to speak about Avos Yisrael and Achdus Yisrael and Shalom. And if we will act in such a way, as the Rebbe said many times, that Geidel Schus HaSholem will bring about the Gula Mitzvah Shlema, take it from Yad Mamish, V'niske zenzich from the Rebbe, Dole Matan Aguf, or the Matan Me'asor Tvachim, V'hu Yigalenu.